an 8-core Raspberry Pi with AI acceleration and a real-time core. If that sounds like a dream, especially if you want it for an affordable price, then dream no more, because the OrangePi 4 Pro delivers just that and some more. I've literally just received my sample now, and in the following steps I'm going to give you a first overview of what the system will offer. So, here we have the OrangePi Pro. It comes in one of these plastic project boxes. If you open it, the box looks pretty sturdy to me, can be reused. And here we have the process computer, as always in a welded shut bag. So we have to cut in. And when we unpack the machine, we see by and large what we know. Here we've got the Wi-Fi antenna with its UFL connector. We've got the 40-pin connector. What is nice is here we've got an analog microphone, we've got a headphone output, we've got the serious number label, the memory, and the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth module here. And if we look at the front, we see USB 3, USB 2, Ethernet, very charming full-scale HDMI. And that already brings us to the bottom, where we've got here the eMMC space. We can put like this a memory card, and then here we've got the microSD boot medium, and here finally one of these camera interfaces. So in principle, it is the very classic compact single board form factor computer that we all know and love. And here at the back there is the microSD slot, but sadly this is a small downgrade. You see, it's now no longer a click fit, but it's just a press fit, like on the Raspberry Pi. But of course I understand why they do it. Two reasons. Number one, this is only for bring up. You've got two other memory options here. And number two, people do just rip them out if it's a click fit, and this just does increase overall satisfaction in a bakayoko type of fashion. And comparing the two things, it is obvious that this one is a bit longer. As you can see here, when we put them side to side, there's like a tiny little bit of difference here at the front. And in terms of width, well, as is always for single board computer designs, you see they are quite similar, but of course you need to plan for a small redesign as you switch. But this is normal and is good practice, as you need it for the software anyways. And just for comparison's sake, here we've got the 4 Pro, and over there we've got the new OrangePi Plus 6. So you see, this is the normal credit card form factor, whereas this is something quite different. And it's time for a weigh-in. First we go for the OrangePi, where we get approximately 51.19 grams. Then we go for the Raspberry Pi 5, where we get approximately 46.21 grams. So it's a rather minimal difference between the two machines. As for the operating systems, for a long time now there is no Ambien. So instead you go to the official website and they have an Ubuntu, a Debian and an Android image. And as you can see here, all three of them each bring you to a Google Drive like so. You see Android 13, then there is a Debian, Bullseye or Bookworm, and then there is Ubuntu Yummy. And of course in the following steps I will be going for the Debian image. So we go here, we click the version for Bookworm, which is the newer version, we go for download, then we get the usual crying here, and then the download process already starts, and this you deploy it to a memory card more or less like usual. What is important during the bring up, you see here, as long as you see a bit of blinking, this is normal. It takes approximately 1.5 to 2 minutes before the HDMI output is even put on or switched on. And I say this for a reason, because if you, like me, use a studio monitor, during the first bit you will not see a green light but an orange light saying that there is no connection from the HDMI. This is completely normal. You need to wait a few minutes during the initial bring up. And then when we are started up, we see here this little configuration assistant, which in the first step asks for the display settings, and yes, it detected my HP screen correctly. And then with OrangePi, we can get into this configuration utility, where we need to activate the network, or rather the SSH. Where is it? It is not here. Sorry, this is very difficult to film. And yes, the correct is here in System, where we go into SSH. It then downloads the relevant packages via the Ethernet connection. And then we go here, and this is all perfect. So we say save. We say save, we say exit, we say back, and we say exit. And then we just restart the system. And in some cases, it will refuse to connect. And in this case, when you analyze the log, you see errors such as this about the missing host key. And you can fix this via this command here, sudo ssh keygen -a, and after that you need to restart the SSH service once again. And as you can see, after I've done all of these commands, before I got this, after I created the host key, I was able to log in, and we see here it's the usual apt upgrade that we have to do first. Sudo, of course, you shouldn't forget this. It's OrangePi, the password by default. So we get ourselves all the updates. Sadly, here, this is not my gigabit connection, so it's a bit slow. Let's just set it all up. And the next step is already to install our trusty SysBench along with its Lua dependencies, as you see here. And then we can already find out which version of SysBench we are dealing with, 1.0.20, so it's all pretty recent and we can start to play around. And before we start to benchmark, we will visit our good friends from Allwinner, where we can see this beautiful diagram which shows the internal structure. And we see we've got this RISC-V MCU core that doesn't interest us. The NPU doesn't interest us very much either. And then here we've got 2 really high performance cores and 6 not so high performance cores. So when benchmarking, we will be trying to get at least one of the high performance cores under fire before we go for the big Orgus. I don't like to do it, you don't like to see it, but it needs to be done. Down there, please like, subscribe and activate the ring ding 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 bell. Thank you. And for the first run, we are going to do it like so. SysBench CPU run threads is 1. And yes, don't forget the equal sign or weird things happen. And then we get a result 2227. Now next we go for 2. And we see that it doubles, so we at least have a realistic hope that we got the 2 main cores hit first. And now we're gonna go for all the 8 cores. And now we see that we get approximately 9800. So there is a bit of a plateauing, as you see here. So the 6 small cores do about as much work as the 2 large cores. And now, of course, we can annoy this thing and we can see if we can reduce it by trying to heat it up. And now, because we are funny, we have our worker here. And now we go bash worker.sh. I bash the hammer and at the same time I click here my charming camera, and you see that we are seeing the SoC as it slowly but surely heats up. There is not going to be perfect correlation, but you see that the heat is slowly but surely ramping up. Now we are at 40 degrees. $41. You need to understand this is a completely bare chip. There is no heatsink, no heat spreader, nothing. So if you would be using this in a realistic environment, even just minimal thermal management would practically ensure that this board never overheats. Because you see here, I'm now really giving it the business, and the temperature increases only very slowly. So from my point of view, there is absolutely no realistic risk here of thermal trouble. And we are now 3 minutes in, we are at 48 degrees, still everything very stable. I am really very satisfied with what we get here so far. And we are 4 minutes in and still nothing interesting. Yeah, this is, I think, pretty damn stable as far as it gets. What is very neat, we don't even need to install the OrangePi wiring library. Initially, the GPIO read-all command is available immediately, and it informs us here over the various layout of the pin. So next, we want our usual little test program, which I've been perverting it here a little bit, but it's fine. Now we make this. And we can run it like you see here, sudo a.out, and it should be running. And then we can connect an oscilloscope to the expected pins, And as you see here, we get approximately 1.2 megahertz, which should be more than enough for most applications. And yes, there is a bit of deviation, as you can see below, but this works really good, because you must keep in mind that this is driven by the Linux core. And the microcontroller is not at all used, because there seems to be no way to run wiring pi code on the microcontroller part of the SoC. And because our modulation domain analyzer is paid off, I decided to bring it online for a wee bit, and you see here it's approximately 1.3 megahertz here as well, and you see the frequency distribution. There's no fly poop over there, so by and large it all looks pretty sane and stable to me. As for sales, Shenzhen Xunlong usually sells via AliExpress, and here I set it up for America, free shipping and everything, and we see that we get $60 for the 4 GB, 6 GB is $70, 8 GB is $78, and 12 GB is $91. And for comparison, if we go here, we see the 8 GB OEM secrets best price is $80. The 4 GB OEM secrets best price is $60. And then of course the 16 GB, here we've got 142, here we've got 120. And then there is a 2 GB version also, $50, which we don't get here. But either way, these are the prices for the two machines. They are by and large similar, and if you want to buy one, down there in the show notes, there's a link to get one. And with that, I thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and stay tuned. Leave any questions here, because I will try to make a follow-up video looking at the real-time core. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and see you soon. Bye bye.